Hello and welcome to this lesson where we're going to focus on tiling background designs for your games. And so one of the things that we need to focus on here and pay attention to is, while this sort of shape right here, whether it be mountain hills or whatever, it looks like it will probably tile pretty well. When we can see in practice, if I change a setting real quickly, go to document setup, edit artboards, and I switch over the width to duplicate it, so 2048 would be 4096. And I take this shape, I move it over, and then I tile it, Control C, Control F by duplicating it. Moving it to the right, we could see that we have an issue here, right there. So the reason that is because they weren't lined up exactly on the same vertical length on the right and left side. So if I back up a few times, and now I'll focus on show you basically how you can remedy that situation. So even by just clicking on it, we can see, if I hit Control H, that the top of this bounding box, which has the entire selection, we can see that the very top is actually on the upper left. This is the top, the highest side. Over here, we could see that this is down several pixels, or even more than that. So one great way of fixing this and making sure your backgrounds tile correctly is by going to View and Guides, or Show Grid rather. And right here, we can see we have the grid lines that are showing up. So this one is just a little bit beneath the, let me hit Control H to get here, this grid line right there. We could see that if it was moved over just a tad bit, it'd be right there on this grid line. So that's one of the things you want to pay attention to. If you can, try to place your anchor points on the beginning of one of these grid lines. And then it doesn't really matter what's happening in the center too much, as it does on the very left and the very right. And then we could see on this portion right here, we just need to move this up. And then you'll see if you have your smart guides on, that little green intersect point will show up and let you know that you're right there exactly where you need to be. So then if we were to take this and go ahead and replicate it just as we did before, it would now match up evenly. And another thing to also consider is if you're trying to go for a real smooth appearance, like we can see in the middle, it has these smooth Bezier curves. Right here, this wouldn't be very ideal because they're going to come to a point, because this end is going to meet this end. So it's going to be coming to more of like a point instead of this. So you have to try to remember when you're doing these to try to adjust the Bezier curves so that these will match up as one continually flowing curve that goes down. So if this one is on its way down, this one would have to also be on its way down, which it is as well. So these would probably do pretty good in terms of having a flow that goes from this over here up and down. So that's just a few things to consider to make sure that your backgrounds tile horizontally correctly, so that it has to be on the same horizontal path, and you can use the grid to really help you be able to do that. So in our two projects coming up, we're going to really have to pay close attention when we're developing our various landscapes and settings so that we adhere to these principles so that they ultimately tile correctly. All right, so in the next lesson, we're going to really quickly just talk about vector versus non-vector considerations when you're designing your game backgrounds. All right, I'll see you then.